and welcome to this session on the UAE's race to space. My name's Isabel Abul-Hul, and I'm the CEO and trustee of the Emirates Literature Foundation, and it is my great honor to be joined by these young Emirati gentlemen who are at the forefront of the journey of the UAE to space. So we have Salim El-Mari, who is the Assistant Director General for Scientific and Technical Affairs. We have Mohammed. Mohammed, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm the Senior Director of Corporate Development at Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center.
And we have Amar.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Amar, and I'm the Senior Director of Space Engineering and the Project Manager of KhalifaSat.
So, before we go any further, I have to say my knowledge of space and science is zero. So I am completely overshadowed by these marvelous gentlemen who all started on a journey on the 29th of April 2006. They were the first engineers who were sent to South Korea to begin training, to bring that knowledge back to the UAE, and they were the first three. And now, imagine, there are 200 engineers working at the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Agency. So, Salim, can you give us a bit of a background to this incredible journey that you went on?
Yes, thank you, Isabel. I think definitely, when we were given the challenge of going to South Korea and working on the UAE's first satellite, the objective from day one was very different. The objective was that we should move from a country that is dependent on using technologies, buying technologies, to a country that now can be a country that is building technologies and manufacturing our own technologies. So that was always the message and the mission from day one. And us three were the first three that went to South Korea. And when we went there, we had really a strong national mission that we need to work very hard, build up a strong team, and definitely learn as much as we can from our first satellite, which was DubaiSat-1. So I think, the steps that we took in that space program or in developing that space program were very simple steps at the beginning. Let's build a small satellite. Let's hire engineers and scientists that can work on this satellite. And let's look for a partner, a very good partner that can come in, support us on building our capabilities, building our knowledge, so that eventually, which when we talk eventually, it's about 15 years later, that we're able to develop our own space technologies and build our own satellites.
Which you've done very successfully. KhalifaSat, who would like to tell us a little bit about KhalifaSat? Amar.
Yes. KhalifaSat, the idea came right at the beginning. As Salim mentioned, we need to develop our own satellites. We need to have the capability. And that would include definitely the people, the engineers, the scientists, the experts, and also the facilities, the infrastructure in the UAE. And at the beginning, we focused more on the engineers and enabling them, equipping them with a lot of knowledge and expertise throughout the missions, DubaiSat-1 and DubaiSat-2. And then the decision came, and we started working on KhalifaSat in 2015. KhalifaSat, the biggest achievement in KhalifaSat, you can divide it on many aspects. One is it's the first satellite to be built in the UAE and also in the
Arab world.
Yes. The second one, it's one of the most capable satellites, Earth-observing satellites in the world. The products, which are the satellite imageries that will be delivered with KhalifaSat, are one of the highest resolutions around the world. So
this has proved incredibly helpful when there are natural disasters. KhalifaSat takes the images, it helps the rescue teams to understand what's going on and how to quickly send help.
Definitely, and this is what we have been doing actually in the center. We have been providing these images to a lot of United Nations related agencies or global agencies to support the humanitarian work and the disaster management. Also KhalifaSat, with this development of KhalifaSat, the UAE and also is actually sending a direct message to the Arab world, to the international community, that the UAE is trying to become a leading country in space and science and technology. And this is when we started in the UAE to see bigger initiatives being established. And one of them is the Mars mission, one of them is the astronaut program. So I think when you prove something that is feasible to be done in the UAE, you actually prove the capability, and from that capability, you build the infrastructure for even bigger achievements.
So, Mohammed, your focus has also been from when you traveled together. Were you the one who'd had a football injury?
Yes. I
Yes,
did.
so on the day, that's why Mohammed can remember 29th of April 2006, they were all off on an adventure to South Korea, but you had to be helped by Salim and Mohammed, Salim and Amr, because you'd injured yourself playing football.
Yes, I did. I did. Well, that day is, I would say, the first day of us entering the space to the space. I mean, the run to space. Our mission to space started on that day. So I remember that day clearly. We went to Korea. We arrived to South Korea. The culture was different. People didn't speak our language. The families were not there. No friends. So it's a new life. It was a new style for us also personally. Like now we've passed that level after 15 years. And then the knowledge transfer program started in 2006. And we had to go through that knowledge transfer program also. And the commitment that we had to actually achieve those goals and objectives that was given to us for the first project for Dubai Sat 1, that was also a challenge for us that we overcame. And then with Dubai Sat 2, from know-how technology transfer, we shifted to actually designing and implementing different parts of the satellite. So that at that time we had more engineers, so we had to share that knowledge with that group of engineers. And you mentioned earlier we reached 200. And we've been doing the same process with the new engineers.
So it is really providing hugely important careers for Emiratis who have got the right qualifications at school and at university. But if we go back to 2006, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Vice President of the UAE and ruler of Dubai, when he became ruler of Dubai, interestingly, law number 2 that he passed was for the establishment of the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center, which is also home to the National Space Program. So what vision of our leaders and our government that they had this vision that early on. Now, Salim, would you like to show the first video?
Yes, sure. So I think the first video is...
Here we go. Salim, your daughters love it. Look at them. So cute. Amazing. Put your hands up if you would like to go to space to be an astronaut. Anyone here? Yes, we've got some. We can see Salim's daughter wants to be an astronaut. So I don't know quite when it happened, but it was 4,000 people volunteered to go to space as the first UAE astronauts. And it was whittled down to two, Hazza al-Mansouri and Sultan al-Niadi. And then finally, Hazza has been selected as the astronaut who will go up on behalf of the UAE on the 25th of September this year. We will have our first UAE astronaut in space. At the beginning of the book, Race to Space, just for those of you that want to go to space, it says, if you think about it, you'd have to be pretty foolish to apply for the job of an astronaut. It consists of going through months to years of intense, physical, arduous training, then agreeing to be strapped down to a 55-meter tube packed with about 160 tons of highly explosive liquid fuel. This is then ignited to propel you at the thrust of something like 10 A380s taking off to reach speeds of over 20 times the speed of sound, to reach a tin can suspended in a vacuum 400 kilometers above Earth, which is exposed to temperatures of between plus 121 centigrade and minus 157 degrees centigrade. And Salim and I sat with Hazza and Sultan earlier this year, and I said, Salim, why didn't you apply? Tell us.
Well, I mean, if you listen to what was written in the book, that's reason enough for me not to apply. But definitely, I think from my perspective, I was managing the program, so I had a lot of detailed knowledge about what it takes. And I think, we had 4,000 candidates who've applied for this, as you said. And out of those 4,000, about 40% were Emirati women. I mean, that's something that we were definitely not expecting. And when this program was kicked off, we expected about 400 to 500 candidates in total. And maybe, 10 or 15% would be women. So to get 4,000 and nearly 2,000 of them women was an overwhelming amount for us, but that also shows us the interest in space today. Our leadership's objectives are being met. The investment that the country has made in space, we can see that those results are starting to show. So out of these 4,000 people, obviously we've eventually ended up selecting 2, but that took us nearly a year. And we went through a lot of process where we did a lot of medical testing, we did a lot of psychological testing, we did a lot of physical testing, IQ tests. There was testing in Russia for over a month to some of the candidates. And then we've been able, from those 4,000, to select the top 2. And today, obviously, we have Sultan and Hazza, who are both going through the exact same training. One of them is prime, who will be Hazza, and Sultan is a backup. What that means is that last minute, if anything happens, we have Sultan who can come and take Hazza's place just in case, because the mission is not going to wait for anybody. So they basically go through the same training and are prepared for the same mission. And we wish them all the best.
So this is the beginning, and do we know how many astronauts have left Earth to go to space? It's a very small number.
Yeah, there's about 500.
500 out of the billions who are living on the planet have actually gone to space.
Over 60 years, so it's...
Over 50 years. And one of those now, inshallah, will be an Emirati, which is an amazing achievement. It is an incredible vision. So, Mohammed, tell us a little bit about the longer-term vision, because it's also not just going into space. There is a mission to Mars as well.
So, we have a 100-year plan. Part of the 100-year plan is that we have a Mars mission. We have a probe that we're sending to space, inshallah, next year, all the way to the red planet. And then we have the astronaut program. So everything is linked. So there's a 100-year plan. To get to Mars, or to understand the atmosphere of Mars, you need to have a satellite. To have someone reach Mars, you need someone to actually go to space. So everything, there's a vision for everything. And the 100-year plan is not only focusing on conquering Mars or having a colony on Mars or being part of that mission. It's also making sure that our future Emirati students, our future Emirati engineers can participate in evolving in those big projects that the country is looking to enhance in the next 100 years. So the Mars mission, of course, will focus on the Martian atmosphere. It will be one of probably the first, it is the first one to study the full Martian atmosphere on a daily basis. And it has
And this is the first in the world to do this. So you're leading
the other satellites
the world
have
on
done
this.
that, but not on a daily Martian day.
Yeah.
And all the data that's coming out of the probe, of the HOPE mission, will be distributed to the academic sector, to doctors, to engineers, for them to do more analysis on how to understand the Mars mission, the Martian atmosphere, sorry. Also, having engineers floating, working on different projects, that's also enhance our capability in the country of innovating in new things. We always think of sustainability. We don't want to just send someone to the ISS for once, okay, we made it there. No, there's actually a mission behind it. We include different sectors in those researches. What kind of researches do you want to do on the ISS? And how will those researches benefit us on Earth? Because water, power, that's something that we have to study more, and maybe we can do further testing in space and enhance it on Earth.
And Amr, would you say that in your journey over the last 14 years, you've changed as a person because of your focus on the race to space?
Definitely. It's a life-changing experience. You know, I can go back to 2006 and say, I never imagined where we will be today. And I have to say, the vision of the leadership was quite clear. And for us to understand it, it took us some time. But when you go into space sector and the space, let's call it community, you realize that space is beyond all these boundaries, beyond countries, beyond nations. When you talk to people in conferences, you find people from Africa, from Asia, from the US, from Europe, from countries that maybe you have never heard about, talking the same language, which is science and technology for space. And what makes space even more appealing is that it's always challenging. You know, to send 1 kilogram to space, it costs around $100,000. And everybody is trying to reduce mass, but have even bigger capabilities. So when it comes to engineering solutions, what we send to space usually is the best of what's getting out of Earth. And working on that definitely inspires you and inspires everybody around you. I think when you work in space, you eventually become a person who challenges himself and a person who actually wants the benefit of everybody around him. And this is what we do in the UAE.
Yes. So do we have a video of the next video? Would it be the astronauts? What's the next one?
The next one actually is the launch of Khalifasat, so it's the culmination of all of that.
Yes,
so.
yes.
Keep monitoring solar panel voltage and FSS Z.
That's Amr.
Good. I'm really proud.
Great.
I'm really proud that I've worked on this project. Maybe what I did is less than the others. I think the others have done so much for this project. But I'm happy that we made it.
Finally, we launched. Finally received the first signal. We checked the health of the satellite. It's really good, looking good.
I'm so happy to see the success of our Khalifasat team. We did a great job. I thank every member in Khalifasat team.
So Isabel, you asked Amr, you know, what has changed in you as a person, but I can tell you when we first went to Korea, he had a full head of hair.
Okay.
So that definitely changed.
But now he's lighter. He's got less hair, so that helps if you ever go to space because you're not that 1 kilo.
Less contamination.
And Salim has more hair.
Yeah, still got hair. So I think it is an understanding for anyone here how difficult it is to become a space scientist, which you all are. You're engineers, you're scientists. What were the things, I'll ask each of you, we'll start with Mohammed, what were the qualities, what was the studies that you took that allowed you, 14 years later, to be so instrumental in the race to space in the UAE?
To be very transparent and very honest, when I graduated from university, I studied software engineering, programming. And I never thought that one day the government would head that direction. But when I was, it's an opportunity that a person will get once in a lifetime probably. And people will get multiple opportunities. If I grasp that opportunity and then realize that engineering is very important. You can help, if you say mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, software engineering, it is linked. Any scientist would start with astrophysics, and there are some engineering involved in it. So my advice for the future generation, whoever is studying engineering or whoever is focusing on physics or math, that there are opportunities. And now is the time for you to grasp that chance and actually help the country. Because the commitment that you will give for the country, the work, the flag of the UAE in front of you all the time, this is motivational by itself. When the government gives you that commitment, we want you to do such a big project. We wouldn't take a step back. We would run for. We'll fall. We've burned boards. Of course, we've done a lot of mistakes on our way, but we've learned from them. So I think the future generation can do the same.
Salim, what for you has been the biggest assets in your growing up, in your career, that got you to becoming in such a key position in the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Centre?
I think it's simple. It's more towards commitment, hard work and dedication. I think also, in this day and age, a lot of people look for quick wins. And I think that's what we need to move away from. So you need to sacrifice, you need to look at the long-term vision, the long-term goal. When the team was sent to South Korea, it's not looked at that we'll go there for a year and a half and come back. Amr and some others spent nearly 10 years there. So I think there's always that long-term vision, long-term commitment, and hard work definitely is what gets you there at the end. That's what I think.
Amr, for you, what have been the most important things that you've done in your life that have allowed you to take this position as one of the key players in the journey of the race to space for the UAE?
Well, I'd like to thank maybe many people in my life, actually, but mainly in my
Your
house.
Your mother, please.
Exactly.
Your mother.
The family. I mean, now I am a parent, and I can appreciate the need for the support and guidance that we need to give to our kids. There are a lot of opportunities in your life, but with good guidance from your family, I think you will definitely achieve something big. This has been given to me, and I'm blessed with that. But at the same time, when you reach a level, when you go to university or you finish even university, you can do anything you want, especially if you have a good grade and a good degree. There are many opportunities for you, but it's very important that that spark in your life starts before that, so that you have a very clear goal in your life. And luckily, we are in a country that supports many things. You can be the best astronaut, you can be the best engineer, you can be the best scientist, or you can be the best architect, you can be the best author of a book. In the UAE, we are really blessed having so much opportunities. For us, of course, I would say, please come to space and space engineering and space science, because what we are achieving nowadays in our projects and what we will achieve in the future, I believe it will be something that will be remembered for years and years to go. Eventually, when you grow up, you want to have something that adds value. In the UAE, it's important that everybody thinks about the big achievements. And, and the main reason behind that is that we are a small country in this world. if we want to be a country that is notable, then we have to make big achievements. And I think this is the strategy that the UAE is taking. And we all have to support that.
If you look back in history of the Arab world, the earliest known astronomers came from the Arab world, and there was this fascination with stars and the galaxies. And do you think that this has been part of how there has been this love of thinking about what's out there, what's in space? I remember Hazar talking about lying in Al Ain in the desert when he was a little boy and looking up where there was no light pollution at all the stars out there and being fascinated by it. So how much do you think I suppose the DNA of the Arab world has led to the UAE leading the Arab world in terms of space technology?
Yeah, I think I agree with that, and I think it has a lot to do with it because it's part of who we are. But at the same time, all of us are taught in school about the glories of the Arab empires and the Muslim empires, and most of the stars today are named after or Arabic names. They have Arabic names. There's a lot of technologies that were developed 1,000 years ago that led to a lot of the technologies that we're using now, a lot of math, a lot of science, and that was the golden age for the Arab and Muslim empires. And I think for us, we always have that longing to be a strong participant, I mean, as Arabs and Muslims, to be a strong participant in the sciences again. And I think that drives us at the end of the day. And, and I think the UAE is taking a big step towards that goal, and it's supporting other Arab countries in achieving that as well.
And sharing, Mohammed, what kind of network is there to share the knowledge you gain, but also to gather knowledge from other countries that are involved in space technology and exploration?
Sure. Okay, we've learned that with our first project when we did the know-how technology transfer with the Koreans. And for the Mars mission, we're doing the same thing but in an academic manner. So we're working with different universities, getting the knowledge with professors and doctors on how to improve systems. So that's also enlightened our engineers that there are opportunities they would learn, and then they would transfer that knowledge to our future generation. I think doing what you love is very important. Because a lot of, as Amr mentioned, someone wants to be an author, someone wants to be an engineer, maybe someone wants to be a football player. But doing what you love with passion and commitment is very important. Again, in MBRC, we're blessed, we're lucky, we had that opportunity. And the 200 engineers that we have, or the 200 employees that we have, they've been really dedicated. We have the average age in the center is 27 years old. So that shows you that we're focusing on the future generation. And 40% of them are women. So that's also, it helps others when they look towards, okay, what am I going to do in the future? If I want to be a scientist, if I want to improve my technologies, how can I improve my technologies? There is a place for it in the country now. And thanks for the government and the vision that they have that makes everything available for us in the country. And abroad also, of course. I won't forget the sectors that we work with. We work with internationally with a lot of countries. And in the region also, the vision of the space sector has changed. All universities are being involved in CubeSats, different satellites being developed. There's satellites that are being developed with multiple Arab countries currently. So that awareness helped the region improve, and hopefully the future generation can help it exceed expectation and become one of the top pioneers in the space sector.
So is there, I'm sure there is, but maybe for some of our audience members, do you have an internship program so that students at universities who are studying particular subjects could come and intern with the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Agency?
Yes, we have. I mean, we do receive a lot of students who take from 2 to 3 months internship. And, to be honest, we take them to the full, to the extreme of engineering, and we give them the biggest tasks. And we are surprised because they're capable to do them. And that's quite comforting for us, because eventually we know that the future employees or the future colleagues will be as capable as these guys. Also, the center actually provides scholarship programs to support the students go into the best universities. And
which would you say are the top universities for those that want to get involved in? Can you give a couple? Just a couple.
I'll start with saying that most of our employees are actually graduates of UAE universities.
Yes.
I think this is a good sign for us that the academic sector in the UAE has improved in a large scale recently. The universities, I believe many of them have started focusing on STEM degrees,
yes,
and engineering and math, and I would say universities like UAE University, the Khalifa University, the American University of Sharjah, and many of the higher men's college,
Dubai Men's College,
Dubai Men's College,
yes,
and many others are all actually heavily involved with us directly. Dubai University,
yes,
most of them are actually now in direct communication or direct cooperation with maybe government entities like us to actually prepare the students to join such.
That's wonderful.
Exactly.
Do we have a video of the astronauts in training?
Yes, we have a couple of videos. If we could show one of them, and then we'll give a commentary on that after it.
Yeah, please. That would be wonderful. Your daughter's glued to it. She loves it. Really good. Salim, tell us a little bit about that.
So yeah, I think before I go into the details of this, I'll just say a few words about the program itself. And if we look at the last time this region had an astronaut, that was in the 1980s. So I think anybody who is 35 and under would probably not be able to associate with Arabs and Muslims being in space. So this was the main #1 objective here today, that from our leadership, that we need to change that. So we need to have Arabs and Muslims back into space. We need to have astronauts from this region so that the youth of the region can associate with, yes, people that are from my region, people that are from my country can go to space, so I can do that as well. So that was the first objective. And the second objective was that we need to have a sustainable program. So if we look at the first Arab in space was Prince Sultan bin Salman from Saudi Arabia, and the second was Captain Mohammed Faris from Syria. And since then, there's been no repeat. So for us, it was, we need a first mission for the UAE, but we also need a second mission. So to show that we will have a sustainable and long-term program. So these are things that we are now working on. And as you can see from this video, training to become an astronaut is not something that's easy. There's a lot of sacrifice, a lot of time spent, a lot of hard work. With this specific video, they are in a parabolic flight, which is simulating a microgravity or zero gravity environment. But they have to do certain activities that they would do when they are up in the ISS or going from ground to the ISS. And some of that, as you saw, was removing their spacesuits quickly in case of emergency, putting them back on in case of emergency, in case of depressurization. So these things can save your life or not if you don't do it right and if you don't do it in time. And there's a lot of other activities that they were doing during the video, and that is to kind of acclimatize to the environment that they will be living in once they go to the ISS. So what happens in a parabolic flight is that the plane takes off, and then comes down. And during that down, while it's going down, you've got 30 seconds or 25 seconds of zero gravity. But when you're in the ISS, it is consistently constant zero gravity. So trying to live in that condition and eat and do normal day-to-day activities is very difficult, and this training prepares them for that.
Yes, the whole idea of being in zero gravity over a long, a space of 24 hours, 48 hours must be hugely challenging. And I mean, you see people going into these chambers to have a minute of being zero gravity, but to actually live in that and be able to eat and drink and do normal daily activities is...
It's challenging, definitely. And usually we see the positive side of it, but there's a lot of challenges when you are in the ISS. They have a very detailed schedule daily on when that time they have to wake up, what do they have to do, step by step. And for us, our first astronaut, it will be around 7 or 8 days. But on our next missions, we hope that this will be extended. And some of these astronauts actually live for almost 6 months in space. And some of them actually reached 1 year. So you can imagine that, being away from your family. I mean, living in a very small box with the same people and doing exactly the same thing, or so much scheduled task for you. It requires a lot of courage and a very strong mentality to be able to adapt to such a lifestyle. I think it's this is why astronauts are. It takes us a very long time to actually select them, to find these right people.
So, Mohammed, you're not going to space yet. I say yet, but if you were, what Mohammed would you want? What would be the most precious objects that if you had to take 2 things, you were allowed 2 things, what would you take with you to space in the space station?
Honestly, I would take the UAE flag. That's a must. Probably my family picture. Just if I'm going for 6 months to a year, I would rather have my kids in the picture. But if I had to take something that had to do with research, that would be the 3rd thing. So I can enjoy myself there at least with some research.
Salim, I know you're not going to space, but if you were, or you change your mind and decide you want to be an astronaut, as things change, what would you want to take to space with you?
Well, definitely I've seen the type of food that they eat in space, and I don't want to eat that food.
Tell us a bit about the food. What do you eat? Because I'm not going. If it's not good, I'm not going.
It's not very good. So, I mean, it's definitely food that is processed and prepared so that you can eat it in that environment. So it tends to be in tubes and or cans. And so, I mean, some of the food does taste good, but obviously your taste buds change in that environment as well. So it tends to be, food that would be in tubes such as toothpaste, and then you would eat it in that manner. In these day and age, obviously they are changing the type of food, so it is getting better and better. But what I would take with me is home comfort food. So something that my wife cooks, I would like to take something like that up to the ISS and make sure that I can have a very good meal.
Don't you worry that someone's going to steal it from you once the other people on space know about that? They'll be getting
I'll guard it with my life.
And Arma, you haven't told me. Tell me what, if you were going to space, what you would want to take with you.
I never thought about it, but I like football, so I'll take a football with me.
You take a football. Football. And astronauts have to do quite a lot of exercise, don't they, to avoid their bones thinning and things like that. So the football maybe would be a good idea. That would be something. So we have time for some questions. So if anyone has a question from this wonderful panel, please put your hand up and we'll get a mic to you. Have we got one more video?
Yes, we have one more video.
So we'll show one more video, give you a chance to think about questions, and then we'll have the mic ready. So last video, please. Gosh.
زائد دفا تفيرشد أفرينو بساتكو 23 كيلومتر.
So, if you have a question, please put your hand up and we'll get the mic to you.
Hi, it's a pleasure to meet you guys. I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing and inspirational. I'm a teacher, and I don't know if you noticed, but I'm going to boast about you guys when I go back to work on Sunday. But you mentioned 40% of the applicants were females. Do you know how far along they got into the competition to become astronauts?
Yes, I do, because we were conducting the final interviews. That percentage pretty much stayed the same all the way till the final stages. It's slightly reduced. The one thing that we noticed was obviously that a lot of the females that had applied were younger than the age requirement that we had. So that was one of the main reasons. But for us, I mean, the main reason for choosing, the main criteria for choosing the astronaut was that we have the most capable of the applicants who could conduct the mission. So these were the two that were the most suitable.
But we will see, inshallah, a female astronaut in the making before too long.
I believe so, yes.
I think you had a question here, one question here.
Hello, I'm gonna speak Arabic. متى راح يكون معنا مصانع تصنع الصواريخ أو محطة الإقلاع في الدولة؟ ما نعتمد على الدول الأخرى، الدول الشقيقة.
Okay, I'll just translate this in English. The gentleman is asking when we will have a rocket development program and when we can launch rockets or launch vehicles in the UAE. I think the UAE is always taking challenges. They always have a saying in English, this is not rocket science, which means rocket science is something extremely difficult and challenging. But eventually, I think the UAE will do it. It's not in our agenda, I can say that now. But I'm sure that in the future, it will be done in the UAE. Rocket science is one big part of space technologies. And definitely, if we want to launch more satellites and have a bigger program in the UAE, we will have rocket launching capability in the UAE. It requires time. The countries that actually launch now have spent a lot of time and effort and money to develop their capabilities. But this is something that the UAE definitely will think about in the future. And I share with you the same dream. Maybe in the future we will work together on one of these rockets.
There's a question there. Question at the back. You can ask, if you've got another question, you can ask the gentleman afterwards, yeah? So there's one question there.
Hello, I'm a student at the UAE University, physics major student, and I noticed that most of the opportunities regarding the space science sector is usually offered to the citizens of the country, mostly locals. So I was wondering if there's any possibility that non-locals, Arab students, might participate in the sector as well. For example, the Intalaq scholarship is offered for locals mostly. And I'm non-local Arab student, so I was wondering if there might be a possibility for me to have that scholarship. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. As we were saying, obviously, when the sector first started, the focus definitely was on UAE national development because we did not have any capabilities here in the country. Today, just a couple of months ago, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid launched a new mission for the country, which is called, it's a satellite called 813. And that satellite is a mission where all Arab countries are able to join in and work with us on the development of that mission. Through that mission, obviously, when we say people will directly be working on that satellite, there'll also be training programs, scholarships, development, different activities that will take place, and people from all countries of the region can participate in that. That mission actually is not led by the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center, it's led by the UAE Space Agency here in Abu Dhabi. And I think they'll be announcing the specifications of how Arab students, Arab engineers based in the UAE or in their own countries can participate in that program in the coming months. So I hope that gives you an opportunity very soon.
We've got time for one or two more questions. Put your hand up if you've got a question. Any more questions? Do you think your daughter would like to ask a question? There. Can you see the little girl sitting there? She wants to. There's a small girl. Can you give her the mic? This one, just here. No. Here. The mic, sorry. They'll bring you the mic. Is it Latifa?
Yeah.
Latifa, just tell us whether you want to be an artist or an astronaut. Tell us, please.
I think I want to be an astronaut.
You want to be an astronaut?
You'll be the best astronaut.
Then you've got to join the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center.
Thank you very much, Latifa. Can I thank our wonderful panel here today who are making history in the Arab world, in the UAE, for the reality of the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center and also the UAE Space Agency. They give us all a future, a hope, the Mars mission, and maybe they will go to space as well one day. Who knows? Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to buy one of the Race to Space books and have it signed, which is pretty special, our signing area and Magrudi's are here. So if you'd like to also speak to any of the guests, if you could make your way over there, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Arm.